Hello, hello, hello. Part 2, I'm back. The next day. That nap must have been so good because I am awake and in a great mood. I was I was rendering the vlog from yesterday, which was literally a half an hour ago, and waiting to upload it onto YouTube so I could post it. And I was going to sit outside and read for a little bit because it's so nice outside, 64 degrees, but it's just really nice. And instead, I was going to tell you about outside, but instead I got on Audible, which that was a big mistake. I ended up buying the daily deal. Every day they have a daily deal on Audible. So if you have an Audible membership, you pay your monthly membership and you get like I get 2 credits a month. I end up buying like 5 books a month. I get the 2 credits, and then I usually you can get 3 extra credits for like $34, which comes out to like, I think $12 a credit, which a lot of the books are like $28 with your membership. So, or $18, so you're still saving a lot of money on the audiobook. So, I buy it that way. So I probably buy 3 to 5 books a month total, and I get 2 credits. But then you also they now have this thing on Audible where you get like 2 free downloads a month, but they're not like regular books. They're like Audible originals, and they have like 5 or 6 that you pick from, but they're pretty cool. I honestly haven't listened to any of them, but the ones I picked look cool, you know, like they look like different things I probably wouldn't normally read, you know, and they're typically shorter too. They're like 4 to 6 hours. Some of them are like 2.5 hours. So I need to listen to one of those. But I was on there, and years ago I had gotten this, like years and years ago. It came out like in 2000 or something like that. This book called, and I couldn't remember what it was called, but I knew it was about this woman, and I thought she owned like a vintage clothing. So like she moved back home, and it was like this vintage clothing store. I think I'm actually in my head putting 2 books together, like in my head. I think there's like 2 different books I'm putting together, but I think I had both of them. But then I remember there was like a mystery, and she moves back to this small town and whatever, and I thought it was like, had the word stitch, like a stitch in time. So I looked it up, and it pulled up this book, and it was about this woman, and she comes and moves home with her sister, and her sister gets killed, and her sister owns like a needle shop store, and I was like, oh my god, this is the book. Well, it's on Audible, you guys. I couldn't believe it. So I'm gonna buy it when I get my credits. I get credits here in a couple, like I should be getting them actually today or tomorrow. I think they come like on the 18th or the 20th or something like that. So then I went in and I was looking at all the new books that had just come out. And Christine from BookTube, she has a book out. I knew she was writing a book, and then I had seen on Twitter something about her event, but I didn't know that it was out already. And it's actually like on Audible, if you go, it's like listed as like one of the new in fiction books, which is kind of a big deal on Audible. That they have it listed there. It looks really good, actually. It's about a girl who's in college, and she does like a semester in London, and she kind of loses herself. It looks really interesting. I'm gonna read it. I mean, especially to support a fellow booktuber, you know. Not that she needs my support with 400,000 followers or something. It said 400,000. I think that's what she has on there. She was like one of the original booktubers. Christine from I think it's Poland Banana Books or something like that. I can't remember. I can never remember what her channel name is, but I love her videos. She seems real sweet. I've never really interacted with her a whole lot, but or at all. I mean, I've left comments on her videos and stuff like that. But it's always interesting to me, like every once in a while, like some huge booktuber will comment like on my booktube channel, and I'm like, I didn't even know they watched my like my videos, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, oh my god. I almost kind of get a little bit more starstruck with that than I do with like regular YouTubers at this point. it's harder to like, on BookTube, to get a big following. So these people that have like over 100,000 followers or subscribers on BookTube, like, they've really worked hard to get there. You know, I mean, these are people that are specifically making videos about books. I mean, yes, people follow them for, you know, their personality and things. And I think it's easier if you're younger. Like, a lot of the younger, like, kids, they seem to, like, kind of take off and do really well on BookTube right away. Some of them do. If they have, like, really great personalities, you know, and stuff. This Lily C. Reads from Australia, her channel just, like, went through the roof like that. But she's very much kind of like, she kind of reminds me of the Antonio Garza of, like, just with her, like, personality. The Antonio Garza of, like, the BookTube community. Like, she's got kind of, like, a really funny attitude. She did, like, a book video. Like, one of her very first videos was called something like shit books I read this last year, and it, like, got a ton of views, like hundreds of thousands of views. And that's kind of like the video that she's just real super honest. She's kind of like a breath of fresh air within the BookTube community. So anyway, yeah, I was looking through books on Audible, and then I was like, do they have a true crime section? Because I've never really looked on there for true crime section. And so I went in there, and they do have a true crime section. So I was like looking through the bestsellers. They have tons in there, but I was like looking through well, from what I could see, they had tons. Not tons, but a lot. And I was looking through their bestsellers, and I actually wrote down probably 5, 6, 7 books for ideas for this year. There was like 2 books about the mafia, and I know that Mel wants to do that. And then there was a Robert, is it Richard or Robert Preston, the one that wrote The Hot Zone? And I had forgotten about The Hot Zone, and I was like, that would actually be a good book to read for true crime. It's kind of in the same genre. But there was a different book of his called Demon in the Freezer, about anthrax, which that might be interesting. And then what was the other book that I wrote down? There was like 2 other books that I wrote down. I can't remember what they were. But yeah. Okay, so when I stopped vlogging before, I was like, so there's like a back street entrance to our house through the gate. The back, like, gate to our neighborhood. And it's real dark, and all of those houses don't have their electricity right now, so like the yards are really dark. But anyway, it's like on one side of the street, it's like these 2 streets that like go back like 5 houses on either side, and they're real old, like, houses, probably like from the 70s. And speaking, I was gonna talk about rabbits. It was funny because as I said that, a bunny just like scurried over in there. But and then on the left-hand side, there's like a house, like as you're like driving down, and they're like newer and like really nice. And I mean, not that any of these houses aren't nice, but it's just like older on one side and like newer on the other side. And but it was like pitch black, and I'm like driving down the street, and I'm like going real slow, right? And I see like 3 bunnies on one side of the road. As like my lights come on them, they like all hop into the yard. They were so cute. There's so many bunnies this year. Is it just because it's spring and they're like new? And then on the other side, there was like a bunny sitting there, and he was sitting right next to a cat. This cat was like literally like curled up, just sitting in the grass, like probably 2 feet off of the road, just sitting there. Like, I drove by and he just kind of like looked at me. And then there was another cat, and then there was like 2 more bunnies. I was like, this is like Harry Potter. What is going on? There's like all these animals out. It was kind of freaky, but it was so cute. And all these bunnies hopping through the yard. It was like adorable. Our neighborhood, like around our house, there's always a lot of bunnies. I think we have bunnies that are living underneath our patio. Because whenever because you know, like when bunnies are like, let's say like a month or 2 old, and their legs get real long, but their bodies are still kind of like short, you know what I'm talking about? And they're real cute. Whenever I take the dogs out the back patio, there's like this one bunny, and it like darts out from underneath our patio, and it just like goes underneath our neighbor's patio, and Tucker always sees it. He's the only one that sees it. He's so cute. And he never chases after it or anything. He just like stands there and he like watches it go run underneath the patio. I don't think he really understands what it is. Which is funny because like Pee-Pee and Boo chase after birds and squirrels. I mean, if they see something, they're chasing after it. They chase after birds all the time. I'm like, Boo Radley, honey, you're not. He's like chasing after a bird. He's like, there'll be like a bird and he'll be like sitting on the grass and he'll like take off and he just like chases. He's like, he's like chasing after it. And I'm like, Boo Radley, you're not gonna catch that bird, honey. It's like 100 feet in the air now. He's like, he's so funny. He's such an adventurer. He like forgets where he is sometimes. Like in the backyard, like I'll stand out there and like PB will walk down to a certain point and then he'll like turn and come back. He kind of knows when he's gone too far because he knows that I don't like them going down too far. But Boo Radley will just keep on walking. He's like, and he's got his head down. He just keeps on walking and walking and walking. He like, I think he kind of forgets where he is. And then all of a sudden he'll be like 3-4 houses down and he'll look up and he'll look back at me. And I'll be like, Boo Radley, what are you doing? And he'll go, he'll look at me, like hunch down and look at me. And then he just like darts like in my direction. He comes running. He's so cute. Boo Radley is so funny. He does this thing though, I will tell you that this is not my favorite thing. He like picks a spot in the grass. I think it's cool on his back. He does it, it's weird too. He and Tucker both do this in the driveway where they'll like pick a spot and it's always like this specific spot and I can never like, it's always like the same spot. I don't know what it is about this spot, but they like push their head against the cement. I think it feels like good on their face or something like that. But Boo Radley goes out in the grass and what he'll do is he'll like circle around an area and then he'll come and he'll like flip over on his back and he like rolls all around on it. I think it feels good. I don't know what it is. Like he just, and he'll do it literally like 10 times in a row, okay? Well, because he's not the brightest dog in the entire world, sometimes he rolls into goose poop, which is impossible to get out of dog's fur. You can't just like put him under the sink for 5 minutes. So I've got to take him down in the bathtub. I mean, we wash them probably, I don't know, every 2 weeks or something anyway. But then you got to take him down into the bath. We have like this huge, like in our basement, we have like one of those huge sinks. Do you know what I'm talking about? Which is perfect for washing dogs because it has like the thing over it. Put him down there, wash them all out. And Boo Radley, he doesn't love to be bathed, but he's hilarious after he's been bathed and like, you know, you dry him off, because I carry him around like a little baby doll afterwards. And then he'll like run around the house, like darts up the stairs, darts around the living room, darts up the stairs, darts in through the bedroom, jumps up on the bed, jumps back down off the bed, comes downstairs. He's like runs all. Does your dogs do that when you wash them? Oh my God, it's so hilarious, isn't it? I love my dogs so much. You know what, actually, I do not want to get that. I want to get that Mountain Dew lip balm. That Mountain Dew lip balm is really good. There's this one barista at Starbucks, and I love her so much. And I was coming through Starbucks one day, and I made my order, and this was when she first started. And I started talking, and I heard her go, and so I came through the window and she was like, hi. And I go, hi. She goes, you're Peter. And I go, yeah. And she goes, I watch all your videos. She was so sweet. Something like that. So she and I have become friends. She's really sweet. And she's in college here. She's from Illinois and she like came here to go to college. And she's been studying psychology. So she's been kind of keeping me updated and stuff, and I haven't seen her in there recently. And so today, I pulled up, and she was at the window, and she was like, so excited to see me, and I was so excited to see her. And so I took out my huge chapstick, or my lip balm, and I like had to use it, and she was laughing, and she was like, I just graduated, and I go, you did? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, congratulations. And she was like, thanks. And she was like, I'm gonna move home in August. And I go, what are you going to do at home? Which is in Illinois. And she's like, I'm going to get a job, I guess. What? She was like, what do you do now? Get a job? I go, well, you've had a job. You're just getting a different kind of job. She's like, yeah, that's right. I'm getting a different kind of job. I go, that is so exciting. I'm so happy for you. She's like, thanks. And she's like, I'm going to miss everybody. I was like, yeah, but this is good. This is great. You know, it's the next part of your life. hard, you know, like, I think endings of even good things in our life are hard. You know, I look back on all the endings I've had in my life, you know. Again, I don't do well with endings. Like, my friends used to joke when I was in high school, because I wouldn't even let a song play all the way to the end. And they would be like, oh my God, you have such a hard time with endings. And like, it would get to like 10 seconds before the song was over, and I would either put it on the next song, or I would like rewind it back to the beginning of that song on my tape cassette player. And they would always laugh at me. But like, I do have a hard time with endings about things. I don't know what that is. I've always had that. Like, I've always had a hard time with endings, even when I was a kid. Like, you know, the last day of elementary school, the last day of junior high, I don't really actually, like, think I was that upset about the last day of junior high. Junior high was hell for me. Elementary school, the thing is that even though I was bullied, I still really enjoyed elementary school. Like, in the classroom, teachers were not mean. I had a lot of teachers I loved in elementary school. I just loved that school. And to some degree, I don't even know how to explain it. It's funny because it felt a bit like a battleground to me at times. But then there were safety zones too. Like, the library was a safety zone. There was like pieces of elementary school that I really enjoyed. But junior high, 6th grade, I had 2 girlfriends that I was really, really close with. And we did everything together. But after that, and this is really funny too, because one of them was like my girlfriend for like a month. You know how that is in 6th grade when you're like, do you want to be my girlfriend? And then she's sober now. She's got like 18 years or something. And she and my mom used to go to meetings a lot together. I've talked about her on here before, but anyway. So I see her at meetings and stuff, and we'll be sitting in a group together, and she'll say something about like, oh, and it's so good to see, you know. She always has to let everybody know that I was her first boyfriend. It's so funny. But anyway, 6th grade was good. Okay, I had like a really great teacher, and he was just really cool, and he was real different. And like, when I read that book, Wonder, like, that teacher kind of reminded me of my teacher in 6th grade. He was just a really nice guy. And like, our classroom was like, the kids in our class were just all real close. And I don't remember, from 6th grade at least, and I think it's because I had these 2 girls that I was really close with, and the 3 of us were just like this pack. We were like thick as thieves. I just don't remember a whole lot of bullying in 6th grade. I mean, it must have been, because it was always. But I don't really remember it being that bad in 6th grade. But after 6th grade, so we hung out the whole summer after that, the 3 of us. And then 7th grade, my one friend, the one that, like, I supposedly dated her for a month. I don't even remember dating her for a month, but whatever. I still haven't taken that stuff out from IKEA. It's still sitting back there rattling. She, got really involved in, like, orchestra and stuff. And then my other friend started getting really involved in athletics, and she kind of got real popular. It's that kind of story. They both got real popular and kind of left me in the dust. Like, literally left me. Like, never talked to me again. Like, I mean, 7th grade all the way through, never talked to me again. Like, literally, I had no clue what had happened. And, so my friend that got sober, she and I, because I was in orchestra in high school, she and I would talk, like, in high school. We'd say hi to each other, but it was like, I'd be like, hey, how are you? And she'd be like, good. But it was like literally that. Like, we never had any conversations. Like, never. It was like, that was it. We never talked about what happened. We never talked about us going our separate ways. We never talked about how, like, we used to have sleepovers at each other's houses. Like, I think our parents knew that probably I was gay or something. Like, they didn't have any issue, because I can remember, like, them coming over and sleeping at my mom's house, and, you know, my mom watching movies with us, and, like, the girls would be in the guest bedroom, you know, and I'd be in my bedroom, and then my mom would make pancakes the next morning, and we would watch movies late at night, you know, like, we played games, and my mom loved them, and, and the thing was that, like, all of our parents were, like, really good friends, too. And then I almost kind of sometimes wonder if, like, my mom's drinking didn't have something to do with all of that in retrospect. But I don't think so with the one mother, because the one mother, she kind of could party too. And so, like, she went out and partied and stuff, like I remember. So, like, I don't remember, like, it was a problem or anything. I just remember that, like, she went out a lot. So, like, we would be over there and she would go out with her girlfriends and whatever. It doesn't matter. It totally doesn't matter, whatever. So, but I always kind of wondered that, like, if maybe, like, one of them said something to their parents about my mom drinking a lot. But my mom never drank. Like, that was the thing. Like, when I had friends sleeping over and stuff, my mom wouldn't drink. Like, she was really weird about that. Like, if I had a friend that, like, came over, or if I was doing something with the friend, my mom was, like, really, like, she could kind of control it a little bit during that. I think she was afraid that they would go home and say something to their parents, you know? So, from what I remember, I mean, do I think that maybe there was, like, a time or two that she could have? Yeah, but I don't remember her ever being, like, drunk around friends of mine, like, when I was younger. So that was, 7th grade was really hard for me. I had literally no friends in 7th and 8th grade, and really 9th grade. These girls started, the girl that I was friends with all the way through, like, you know, kindergarten, elementary, high school, graduate school, everything. Like, she and I were friendly, but, like, I would say, like, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, like, I don't know if it was because we weren't in classes together, but we just really weren't that close. And, so then in 9th grade, I don't know what happened, but, like, she and her other friend and these girls that moved here, these twins that I was friends with in high school, they, like, somehow I started sitting with them at lunch. And they were kind of, like, sarcastic and joking mean with me at first. Like, they would, like, kind of pick at me. And it almost felt kind of like a rite of passage in retrospect. But then that became my core group of girlfriends, you know? And then going into 10th grade, I didn't do anything. 9th and 10th grade, I didn't do anything socially. I mean, nothing whatsoever. I literally had, like, one guy friend, and that was it. That I would do things with sometimes with his family. But, like, other than that, like, I had no social life. 9th and 10th grade. I mean, those are, like, core years, you guys. I had no friends. None. You know? And then 11th grade is when I started going out and doing, maybe the end of 10th grade, 11th grade, I started going down and doing stuff with them. But my parents were really weird about me, like, getting in cars with people. Like, they were like, you know, like, I don't know that I trust this, and, you know, they're young, and I don't know their parents, and because my parents weren't close with them. My parents were always kind of weird about me, like, hanging out with people that they didn't know their parents. Now, my one friend that I did hang out with all the way from kindergarten, like, my mom didn't really know her mom, but, like, she knew her mom from, like, class stuff, because we had been in school together for so long. So I think, like, she felt a little bit safer with that. But they were really weird about that kind of stuff. And then, but yeah, I never talked to those girls really again. And then, when my one friend got sober, it was, like, years after she got sober, though, that I started seeing her at meetings. It wasn't, like, I didn't see her, like, right away. Oh, it's gonna stop, hold on. Like, I didn't see her right away. Like, I knew she was going to meetings because my mom would say she told my mom to tell me to say hi. And, like, she gave my mom permission to tell her that where she had seen me, but yeah, I didn't see her for probably 4 or 5 years. And it was weird because, like, Tanya knows her really well, too. And so, like, anyway, it just... So Tanya, like, knew her, like, before I knew that she was, like... I don't know, like, Tanya knew her in the program before I did. And so then Tanya was like, how do you know her? And I was like, we were, like, really good with friends. I mean, we were really close, the three of us. Like, these girls, really, really close. I mean, for them to just blow me off, leave me in the dust, never talk to me again, it was really, really painful. And, so then, you know what's interesting, at my high school reunion, she and I were talking by that point. Like, we were friends. Yeah, we were friends. Friendly. I mean, I would say she's one of my dearest friends now. Like, in the program when I see her and stuff like that, I'm always like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And we hug and we sit there and talk for a half an hour afterwards and stuff. But that other girl, let me just tell you, okay, rude as shit. To this day, rude as shit. I will never forget seeing her at the reunion. And, you know, I'm not talking about my 10-year reunion. I'm talking about my 20-year reunion. And she came and she was like, I remember standing there and talking to her. And she was like, so, what do you do? And I was like, what? And she like went in this whole thing about what she did. And I was like, I mean, have you ever had like somebody sit there and talk about themselves for like, yeah, me in my vlog every night, right? But have you ever sat there and somebody's talking to you for like 20 plus minutes about how great they are, and you're like, I really do not give a one shit about your life whatsoever. Like, I really could care less, you know, and I don't know why you're going on about all this stuff that I don't even care about. And I just like was sitting there and I thought, why does she think I care about, I mean, like, and then I'm thinking to myself, and why is it 20 years out of high school I care about this girl that's like, why am I still like pissed about something that happened in 7th grade? And I remember later I was like, that's one you need to definitely let go of, and I did. But you know, she's rude. She's like, I thought she turned into something. I don't know what happened to her in 7th grade, but she became this just beast. She sold everybody out, and it was more important for her to be popular, so I'm glad that she got what she wanted, hopefully, you know. But, I remember when I would really struggle with that stuff, you know, like being made fun of, being bullied. My mom knew that kids were not nice to me, but she didn't know that I was bullied. Like, if she knew the extent of it, she would have done something about it. But I think she knew I didn't fit in. She knew I was different. She knew my style was different, you know, and she knew I wasn't popular, because she would say things to me like, I don't understand why you're not like going and doing stuff every weekend, like, you know. And I think it bothered her too, because like one of the reasons why we like stayed in the house that I lived in the whole time was because it was so important for my parents that I went to the same school system for so long, because they wanted me to have consistency with all of that, which I think is a great idea. I think kids need consistency. But I think it bothered her. She's like, why aren't you friends with all these kids that you've gone to school with for so long? Like, I mean, I know that they do things, and, you know, like, do you not want to go to parties? I'm like, I'm not asked to go to parties. And she's like, do you not want to go to like, do stuff? I'm like, Mom, nobody asks me. And it really bothered her, you know. She'd be like, well, I don't understand why they're not asking you. What do you say to your mom about that, you know? Well, they're not asking me because they're all making fun of me for being gay, and I don't even know if I am, you know? Because I was confused. I didn't know. I mean, I knew that I had feelings towards guys that were probably different than what most people did, but I was scared of that. Like, I didn't want to admit to that, you know? And so I definitely didn't want to have conversations with my mom about it, and she would push it and push it and push it. Like, well, why don't you want to, it's Friday night, don't you want to when I was in high school, when I was all the time, you know, oh my God, my friends and I in high school, we were always out, we were doing this, we were doing that. My mom, if she told a story once, she told it 1,000 times. So my mom was really, really good friends with David Letterman's sister, David Letterman, that, you know, okay, so he went to Broad Ripple High School, same place that my mom went. And when my mom was a senior, he was a freshman. She was really good friends with his sister. She was like, and she would say, I know how it is with boys. She was like, because when I would go pick her up on the weekends, David would be laying in the living room floor with his 2 guy friends, and they'd be sitting there watching TV, and they'd being real nerdy, not doing anything, not going out. That's probably just how guys are. But he had guy friends. You don't even have guy friends. Why aren't you doing anything? Don't you want to do something? Like, Mom, like, seriously, lay off, you know? If she really knew what was going on in my head, like, I was constantly second guessing myself and feeling bad about things, you know? So it is what it is. But yeah. What was I talking about that got all the way over there? I don't even remember. 6th grade, 5th grade, elementary school. What was I talking about that I was saying that elementary school wasn't really that bad? You know, sometimes it seems like a completely different life when I look back on all of that. Like, it almost seems like I lived it, but it's like I'm looking at it through somebody else's eyes. The thing is, the person that I am today, I wouldn't take it for 2 seconds. Not for 2 seconds. You know, and I think I had to go through that today. Today, the things they said to me, I had to turn it on them in a heartbeat at the expense of getting hit physically. And that was what it always was that either the bullying's going to be worse or it's going to get physical. And I was afraid of those too. But looking back, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't. Because they were insecure. They were picking on somebody that they felt like was less than them, that was an easy target. And I wish I had stood up for myself. But I had to go through what I did, you know, and be afraid to stand up for myself. Which then led me to coming out, which was terrifying to me. You know, we always talk about coming out, and I think there's different things of coming out. There's coming out to yourself, coming out to your friends, and coming out to your family. And I think it usually happens in that order. I think we typically come out to ourselves first, which is a process, you know? And then we come out to a friend first, somebody that feels safe. It's kind of like a test run, you know? And then maybe a couple other friends. And then we come out to family, if we come out to family. And that can be, that process, you know, I'd say for me, that whole process took about 6 months. And that's rather short, I think. And long before that, I knew that I liked guys. I just didn't really know how I could live in a world where I could have a normal life. I think that's sometimes too why, like, although my life probably seems boring to a lot of people, that I just hang out with my dogs and I like to make my patio look nice, and it's nesting is what I'm doing to some degree, right? Oh, did I tell y'all that Mrs. Birdie came back and she was trying to build another nest, and so I put a rock up there? That poor thing is trying to put her thing around this rock. I was like, I'm going to come home and she's going to have that rock knocked over and she's going to have her nest up there. But anyway, you know, I'm nesting, and I think sometimes it's because that's all I really wanted was that normalcy. Like, that's really all I craved, because I didn't have it growing up, because I came from this alcoholic, toxic environment with my mom, right? Although a lot of it was really good, but a lot of it was really scary. A lot of it was really sad. So I think, like, from that, I always craved normalcy, because whenever I did have a friend that I would, like, go over to their house, it was always a friend that had that normalcy. Like, you know, brothers and sisters running around, animals, mom or dad, you know, cooking in the kitchen or ordering pizzas, you know, the parents playing games with us. It was always that, you know, there was not a lot of sadness from what I saw. It was like crazy families. I was always like I would seek out friends almost kind of like that had these big crazy families, you know, which is, I think, some degree, like, I love Alex's family for that, you know, and I love that I feel like I'm part of that. So I think that's part of it. I think also, you know, and I've talked to other, like, gay guys that came out about the same time that I did, and I'd say, did you ever think it would be possible that we could be, like, married or, like, in a relationship, you know, like, in our 40s, having a house, going out to dinner? And it surprises me how many of them are like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I always knew this was possible. And I'm like, really? Because I really didn't think it was. Like, and maybe it's because the bullying was so harsh that I thought there's no way that I can ever publicly live the way that I want to live. You know what I mean? That I just couldn't imagine how that would be. So I think this idea of just having this normalcy is nice, you know? It's like, it's what I wanted. So, I don't know. But I think we come out to ourselves, and then I think that we come out to, like, a friend. And some people do it all real quick. And then I think we come out to our families, you know, and like for some people that can look like a 20-year process, 40-year process. Sometimes it can look to people like they never come out to their family and whatever, you know. And I'm real protective of the coming out process. Like, I think that has to be on other people. I hate outing. I don't like it at all. And I think that people have a right to have that process on their own because I think they have to learn from it. And I think it makes you ultimately who you are to some degree. But then I think the other thing that we don't talk about that's important is our parents and our friends, or our family and our friends and our family, they have a coming out process too. And I think that I understood that enough by the time that I came out that I realized with both of my parents, my stepmom, my aunt and uncle, like, were so completely unfazed. I think Caroline later was like, Peter, we always knew you were gay. I'm like, my dad and my stepmom, we always knew you were gay. My mom was like, I never had any idea. I'm like, Mom, seriously? So anyway, I think family and friends have a hard time with it sometimes because maybe their religious beliefs or their, you know, philosophical beliefs don't match up with that. Or, you know, I think to some degree, like, I don't want to say that one is easier than the other because I think they're all completely different. But I think, like, it would be really hard to be like, and I'm just talking about gay men and lesbians for a second here, okay? But I almost, to some degree, think that it would be hard to be like a super masculine gay male or like a super effeminate lesbian. Because it's like nobody ever assumes it. So then you have to kind of come out over and over and over and over again to people, right? You have to, like, if you say, like, oh, my husband, or oh, my wife, or my, you know, or if you say my partner, then people, it's like, they're confused. You know what I mean? A lot of times. I've always been very pointed about the words that I use because I don't want people to be confused. What is that guy just doing on the corner of the street out in the middle of nowhere at the middle of the night? But, I mean, people always know with me, like, I fit a stereotype. I'm not stupid. I know that. And a lot of times I'm kind of grateful for it, honestly. You know, like, I'll sit there and I'll look at people and we'll be talking and I'll say, well, my husband, and I kind of, like, look for a second to see, like, what they think. And there's literally no flinch, right? Because they're like, I mean, they're not surprised. But, you know, I think that would be really hard. I mean, you would have to kind of, like, do that over and over and over again. I have a couple friends of mine that are super masculine gay guys. Or gay guys that I think you probably just by interacting with them wouldn't assume that they were gay or guess based on what stereotypes are out there. And then I think that they also struggle a little bit. I can't speak to that with lesbians, so I don't know. And I'm specifically only talking about those two parts of the LGBTQIA plus community with that, so I don't want to offend anybody. But, like, with gay men, like, I've had a lot of my friends that are, like, you know, have been in the military, or they're super masculine, or they played, like, sports, like athletics in high school and college, you know, like football and things. And I think it almost kind of messes with them a little bit, you know, this idea of, like, I have to say, like, the groups of two gay guys that I've been friends with, I'm saying, like, these are the two categories that have really struggled the most with their being gay, is A, gay guys that were in, like, the military or athletics, and they come from, like, a really masculine background, like, stereotypically masculine, and so I think they don't really know where they fit in all of that. The other group is Catholics, and I don't know why, but I have had so many friends of mine that are, like, Catholic, and it really screws with them. Like, they're like, A, I can't be gay, and B, but I am gay, so why would God make me like this? And, like, it internally and spiritually really screws with them to the point where it's almost like they feel like they either have to leave their spiritual religious beliefs or they fight this internally. I mean, I have friends of mine that fought that for years. Like, it really messed with them. So, I mean, when I look at all that stuff, you know, in the grand scheme of things, like, my coming out process was rather easy. Like, really, really easy. Other than my mother, who couldn't figure out that I was gay, which mean, up till like the last year of her life, she'd be like, I just can't believe that people think you're gay. I'm like, Mother. We sit around and talk about Annie Mame and our favorite diva singers. Come on. I know. She, like, when I was growing up, if I wanted, like, a doll, I had one of those. I had several dolls. Barbies, and I loved them. And I had, you know, Cabbage Patch Kids. I had to have those. And I had that Baby Alive that you fed it and it pooped and all that stuff. And my mom would just be like, I just think it means you're going to be a great father someday, that you want all these dolls. She would always say that. I'm like, Mom, no, that's not what it is. Looking back, you know, like, here I had all these Baby Alives and Cabbage Patch dolls, and my mom's like, you're just going to make such a great father because you're learning early how to take care of. I'm like, God, I look back now and I think that is so funny. I don't know, maybe she was just delusional and convincing herself because she just couldn't deal with it, but she really had no issue with it. My mother was like, what's so funny about it all is that, well, she did have a little bit of an issue with it because this one thing that we used to get into a fight about, my ear is like really ringing all of a sudden, I don't know why, but my mother was super, super liberal and had a lot of gay friends, actually. And so out of everybody that I came out to, I never thought that she would have an issue with it. And she didn't, but I will tell you what she did, and this really pissed me off. And I didn't know she did this for a while, and then I caught her because of how she introduced my boyfriend at the time. And she would say to her friends, like, she would refer to my boyfriend as Peter's friend or Peter's special friend. And she and I got in such a blowout fight about it in her kitchen one night. She was like on the phone, and she was talking to this one friend of hers. My mother had this one friend that was like super religious and always kind of made my mom feel like, my mom was a woman of strong faith, but this woman, like, you know, like when people are real religious and they kind of talk down to you a little bit, like, okay, I respect your opinion, but mine's better. But my opinion, my stance is, she's kind of a little bit like that, holier than thou. And she's talking to her on the phone or something, and she's like, okay, well, I have to get off the phone. I like literally walked in the door, and I was like with my boyfriend, and she was like, okay, I have to get off the phone. Peter and his special friend just stopped by. And I went in the kitchen, she had hung up the phone, and I go, who are you talking to? And she was like, oh, I was talking to so-and-so. And I was like, Peter and his special friend? I go, what is that? And she goes, what do you mean? And I go, special friend? I go, that is so corny. Why would you say that? I mean, seriously? My special friend? That sounds weird. I don't like that. I went off. I was like, ah. This was my first boyfriend, who she loved. And I said, are you embarrassed of him? Are you embarrassed of the fact that I'm gay? I went off. We're sitting there having this conversation in the kitchen. I go, I am so mad. I said, I cannot believe you're sitting here telling people I have special friends. I mean, it's laughable now. I look back at it, but it's like, she'd say, well, what do you want me to say? I said, boyfriend. I want you to say he's my boyfriend. He's my boyfriend. Just like you could have a boyfriend, just like anybody else could have a boyfriend. Well, there's nothing weird about that. Well, people won't understand. Yes, she'll understand when you say Peter's boyfriend, that Peter's gay, and that she goes, oh, well, she already knows that you're gay. I go, well, then why do you have to say special friend? Well, I don't know. What word do you want me to use? I said, I just want you to know. No, she said, she goes, what word do you want me to use? You tell me. I don't know. And I said, boyfriend. I just told you that. Well, I don't know these things. Partner, lover. I go, you know I hate that word. I've always hated the word lover, okay? If you like it, more power to you. I just think the word lover, I think it reduces us just to being sexual beings. I don't love that word. So, I used to be a little bit more political about this stuff, you guys, than I am now. Like, I used to have some strong feelings about all this kind of stuff. So anyway, and I guess I really still do. I've learned in life that I don't change people's opinions, which is never really my goal anyway. My goal is really for people to see a different perspective or a different side and to make their own minds up. But I'm not going to do that by forcing myself in somebody's face. Like, for them to see how normal I am, and that just the fact of who I love is, how I love is no different than you. Who I love is different than you. But when you take away gender, Okay? The how I love is still the same. But who we all love is completely different, right? Imagine if none of us had any kind of like gender, there was no male, female, blah, 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 whatever, right? Yes, okay, we're all going to be attracted to what we're attracted to. But if you take that away, we all love the same way, right? Like our emotions, our feelings, well, maybe not all the same way, but like the human attraction is the same. You know, what we want from somebody is the same. So how I love is no different than anybody else. Well, that's important for me, okay? That people see how I love, not just who I love. Because I think people can shut down at who I love, but if they see that how I love is no different than how they love, then I think they start looking at the situation differently. But when we get up in people's faces and we say, oh, no, see, I'm gonna demand that you respect for me. But when people demand respect for me, that's like the easiest way to not get respect from me. I'm not real big on people demanding anything from me, let alone respect. Do you know what I mean? I think it's in how we talk to people, and I think it's in how we display our lives to people and how we show them who we are. And I have been more easily swayed about what I thought of somebody by how they present themselves to me and what they show me. Like I said, like I love when I'm surprised by somebody, you know, pleasantly surprised of how somebody is. Like I love that. You know, that I go into a situation and I think this way because somebody has given me a preconceived idea or because I have a belief system based on something or whatever, and then I'm pleasantly surprised that this person is so completely different than I thought them to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I love. Sometimes I get disappointed when I think going into something, you know, oh, well, two things is when I go into something and I think this is how somebody is, and not in a necessarily positive way, and they're exactly what I thought. Or when I had really high hopes for somebody, and then they fall short of that, which I think, you know, is natural of all of us. This battery is dead. You guys, this night is unreal. There's like a little area to pull in up here, I think. Because I have another battery right here. I'm gonna finish it. But yeah, I think we have... Okay, it was at the end, so I just changed the battery anyway. But, yeah, I think that we have to be careful of how we present ourselves to people, you know? I remember back in the day with, like, ACT UP, if you guys remember the organization ACT UP, which I'd actually had a t-shirt of theirs, and it was like two sailors kissing, and it was said silence equals death. They're the ones that came up with the silence equals death campaign, and they used a lot of like Keith Haring's pictures and things like that, his paintings. But they really were a lot about like, a lot of what ACT UP did was a lot of activism that was kind of like in your face. If I remember correctly, they would like throw bricks through like windows. It just was a lot. And I can remember watching that at the time and thinking to myself, I don't think this is how we change the world. You know? I just don't. I don't think that we have to be doormats. I think we can stand up for ourselves. This brings me kind of full circle to what I was talking about. I don't think that we have to be doormats. I think we can stand up for ourselves. I think we can educate people, but I think, I don't know, I've learned in my life that I've had a lot of people actually, and even since I've been on YouTube, like people out there like you guys that have watched me and said like, you know, I didn't know many gay people, which is kind of fascinating to me in 2019, but still, I mean, to realize there's a lot of people that live in small towns. My ex was from a really small town. You know, there's a lot of people from small towns that don't interact with people from a lot of diverse backgrounds, and so maybe it's not that surprising, you know? And somebody will say to me like, you know, I had really strong religious beliefs, or I just didn't know any gay guys, and, you know, thank you for showing just how normal that life is, and you've completely changed my perspective on it. And that's really all I've wanted to do, was make somebody see a different side. And then if they still believe what they believe, okay, fine, but then they've witnessed at least something different. They've seen something that's normal, you know what I mean? That my marriage is like everybody else's. It has its ups and downs. You know, we go out to dinner, and it is what it is, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, so, you know, if I was going back to high school, to bring it back 40 minutes ago, I would be completely different. Now, I wouldn't physically fight because I'm more of a pacifist and I don't really believe in that. But if somebody wanted to hit me over me getting sassy with them, that's fine, because I would stand up for myself. I wouldn't let the things that were said to me now. And I almost probably would be kind of like shady about it a little bit, you know? Like, I mean, my bully back in the day who would come to my lunch table every day and be like, "Sweet Pete." Like, that wouldn't even bother me anymore. I'd be like, "Seriously, Sweet Pete? Come up with something a little bit more original, okay?" But he called me Sweet Pete, and what was the other one he called me? But he would play gay, and then he would be like, "Okay, but no, seriously. Like, they all know I'm gay. There's nobody else here for me to date. I really would like to go on a date with you. Would you come over to my house tonight? We can have a date." And I was just like, seriously? Like, if they were all standing over here, I would just like look forward. And then finally, my one girlfriend, she would have enough and she'd start screaming. She'd like scream at the top of her lungs in the cafeteria, or she'd like scream at them like, "Get the F away," and all this kind of stuff. And like, I just didn't know how to deal with it. And that was just how I dealt with it. They'd follow me around the hallways. They'd circle me in the hallways. So there was like 6 of them, and I'm walking down the hallway and they're all around me. You know, they'd push me into lockers. It was just a lot. Today, I would not let that stuff happen. I just wouldn't. I would come right back at them with every comment that they had for me. But that doesn't mean that I would physically fight them. I don't have to do that. I probably, in retrospect, would come out too in high school. Like, it wouldn't have changed anything. Everybody thought I was gay anyway. I think I would have been mostly concerned about my mom. I was never really concerned about my dad. And what's so funny about that is my dad's just like such an unconditional person. Like, just his unconditional love is just, I mean, it's from such a deep spot. And my mom's is too. But like, I was always so protective of my mom. Like, I don't know, maybe I always kind of like thought or knew on some level that she kind of couldn't handle it to some degree. But she kind of came out of it. When the Matthew Shepard thing happened, if you guys don't know about Matthew Shepard, he was a kid that was killed in Laramie, Wyoming, and they left him for dead. That whole thing changed everything for my mother. I mean, after that, she was like all for PFLAG and, you know, gay rights and educating herself on stuff, and she just was, it was a different mom at that point. Like, she was like, if this hatred out there and this misunderstanding and confusion, and then it was, you know, Peter's boyfriend, Peter's this, whatever, she was like, if this confusion and this hatred is gonna kill somebody, not my kid. Not my kid. She was like calling, there's like, I have a whole long story about the whole situation with Matthew Shepard's mother that I'll tell on here sometime, because my mother was like calling the hospital the night that it happened and stuff. It's just like, I'll never forget when she called me about that. She just couldn't even believe that it had happened. She's like, I can't even believe we're living in a world where this happens. This is just so bizarre to me. She really had a hard time with that story. And I think it hit home so personally for her because she thought that it could be her, you know? I remember that when that happened, MTV ran for like 24 hours every hate crime that had occurred, and they like listed the incidents. Like, they just, does anybody else remember that happened? That MTV just ran a list, because at that time we had no hate crime laws in our country, and still some states don't, where people could go to jail. It could be like a more serious offense because it was a hate crime. But like for 24 hours, they just like at the bottom of the screen of MTV, it just like went and went and went. And it was just like they were showing music videos and all other kinds of stuff, their TV shows. First season of Real World, probably, I don't know. But anyway, and it was just constant. And it was constant. It was like, you know, so-and-so, and they would say their name, and then it would say what city. And, so sad, you know? So yeah, I would definitely stand up for myself today in a way that I didn't then, in a way that I wish I had. And I do wish that I had come out in high school. You know, I think part of my loneliness was my friends would never have cared. I mean, they wouldn't have. They were all talking about it anyway. They all knew that I was. I found out later, you know? that my friends wouldn't have cared, and my family really wouldn't have cared, and everybody in school is making fun of me for it anyway, so it would have been kind of like showing up to school like, what's up? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm gay, you're right. Can we move on now, please? You know, do I think I would have still been bullied? Oh yeah, I think it would have probably been worse, and that's why my fear was, we don't live in that era today. We don't live, I mean, do I think it still exists? Yeah, like, my cousin Caroline was telling me about a friend of hers whose son came out, and that he's like made fun of a lot at school, and he's like a freshman in high school, and he came out, I can't remember when, but maybe he's a sophomore, I can't remember, but he gets made fun of a lot and bullied, and that we're in 2019. So in 1990, I was terrified. You know, I was like, I don't even know, really honestly, that it crossed my mind about coming out. Like, that was so far. I did not even think, going to graduation that year, that I was coming out anytime in the near future. But my friend that I had known since kindergarten, so she worked at Lane Bryant in the mall, and she met this gay guy. He was like, worked at some like makeup counter in the middle of the mall, and they became really good friends, and then he introduced her to all these gay guys, and they all started hanging out, and then I started hanging out with them as a result of that. And that was like, I think the first time that I ever hung out with them was like May or something of that year. And he's actually the one that I got my fake ID stuff from. And I was like, yeah, I have to, like, I can't do this anymore. And I do remember that, like, that month, I was going out to gay bars. I was so young when I look back on that. And, I was like, I don't care if my parents hear it, but I don't want them to hear it from somebody on the street. I want them to hear it from me. And my hairstylist at the time, my stepmom and I went to the same hairstylist, and he had seen me out, and I was drunk, and we were like talking, and so like the next time I got my hair cut, he was like joking and kidding with me, and he was like, does your stepmom know? Does she know that, you know, you go out and all this kind of stuff? And I was like, no. He was like, girl, he was like, you better tell her. I was like, okay, and he was, you know, anyway. And it was right after that. And then I was like, I'm coming out on my 18th birthday. And that's what I did. I did tell my mom that I was bisexual. And we used to say this thing back in the day, like, bi now, gay later. Because I think it was like, and I don't know why, I thought it was an easier transition for me to say that I was bisexual and then come out as gay later. I knew I wasn't bisexual. I thought maybe it was more accepting, I think. And I said that to my mom when I came out to her, and she goes, Peter, you're not bisexual. She was like, let's just be real for a second. My dad had no issues with it whatsoever, my dad and my stepmom. None whatsoever. And my dad was actually the one that had more of the safety talk than my mom did with me. Like a sexual safety talk my dad really had with me, you know? And my mom said, she started crying. And I was like, Mom. And she said, I'm afraid for you. And she was like, you know, she said something about, I can't remember, but how she said it, but she said, I'm afraid for you. And I said, what are you afraid of? She was like, I'm afraid that you won't be safe. And I was like, and you know, because I came out in the AIDS generation, like when I came out, people were dying from full-blown AIDS. And I said, Mom, like, I'll be as safe as possible, you know, and I never had inappropriate conversations with either of my parents about sex. Like, that was just not done in my family, but we had open conversations, and always have. Not like about what acts you do, but like if I had a question, you know, like they were both very open to me asking questions, or, you know. I think it was my dad that I learned that Indianapolis at one point had the highest rate of syphilis. And my dad talked to me exactly about what syphilis was and what, you know, how dangerous it was, and that in men it's harder to detect and things like that. So, I think Or is it in women that it's harder to detect? But I don't know. But, you know, I can remember my dad calling me when that was going on, and he was like, you need to be really careful. Like, this is really scary. This is a no-joke disease. Like, this isn't something you just go take a pill. He was like, you know, you have to get a shot of penicillin. And I remember having that whole conversation with him, or whatever you do. I think it's, you get a shot of penicillin. I think today maybe you can take a pill, but back then it wasn't the case. And, but anyway, yes, very appropriate, but we had open conversations about stuff. And I remember my mom said to me, she goes, I'm scared for you. I'm scared for your safety. And I said, Mom, like, I'll be safe and whatever. And she's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. She's like, I mean, if that happens, we'll deal with it. You know, like, that's how we've always been as a family. We'll deal with it. You know, I'm not talking about that. She said, she said, society is not kind to gay people. And you know, she said, I've had friends, Peter, and society's not kind to gay people. They just aren't. And she was like, and I'm afraid for your safety, and I'm afraid for how people will treat you. And I think to this day, the fact that I've always kind of tried to put my safety first when it comes to that, you know, has been vital to me. Like, hearing my mother say that, I think, was so important. Like, so important. I've always remembered that she said that to me, you know, that she was afraid for my safety. So, but anyway, all right, you guys, I'm gonna get off here now because this vlog is my second one in like 3 hours, and I'm getting tired and I need to go home because we have our counseling session in the morning, and I need to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for that, so I'm not falling asleep in our last appointment with our counselor that we love. And yeah, so I am going to get off here. I hope you guys are having an amazing Saturday. Second time today, part 2. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. And you know the spiel on that. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that. Pass it on. Tell somebody else. Be kind to others. Be compassionate. Treat others the way that you'd want to be treated. We can all need a little reminder of that every once in a while. Even me. Definitely me, probably. And yeah, I love you. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Love you.